Church versus the state, an age-old rift that has spanned almost a century. It has its roots in the Malolos Constitution, where the country first adopted the doctrine of the separation of church and state. Today, almost 100 years later, very little has changed. The object of contention this time is an 83-page draft document to be approved at the International Conference on Population and Development in Cairo next month. The church has found objectionable certain parts of the draft, which the government has allegedly embraced in its entirety. The debates which followed served only to widen the gap between these two institutions, and it has practically boiled down to a political showdown where personalities have taken over the issues.
Having another child will mean a little extra burden, but the possibilities of benefits, like for example, in a rural area, what's another mouth to feed? You add a little bit more water, to the rice, and so on. Anyway, as soon as they start growing up, they'll take care of the chicken, and then from then on. And then who knows? Maybe out of this 5, 6, 7, one of them will make it, and therefore help in bringing up.
My upbringing is in that Nakita ko itong hirap na ito. I am the first to say that population management is not the only answer, but it is certainly one factor. The resources are limited. Let us make sure that there is a balance between number and resources. Itrayo ka ko. Here's a barrio. Here's a farmer. 8 ang anak. Tanong, napapakain mo ba? Hindi po. Napapaaral mo ba? Hindi po. We have a problem.
All of the methods, all of the artificial methods that the government is promoting, we feel are intrinsically evil. They are bad. I mean, we feel that what they said in the letter was it's against the will of God. They said that. And then they listed all the terrible things that it leads to. They feel it's anti-love, anti-marriage, anti-family, anti-home.
Which is anti-love?
The whole government campaign. You know, when you go for population control by these methods, what it comes out to is free love. That's what it comes out to. It's teaching children to be promiscuous. And the total effect is you get what you have in the United States, the grade 7 girl with the condom saying don't be caught without one, you know.
It's freedom of choice. That's what it's all about. And then for my part, as your Secretary of Health, who should be the Secretary of Health of every Filipino, I will not allow anybody to censor your knowledge of any scientific data that will enable you to know everything about every method, whether natural or artificial, so you can make informed decisions.
The dates may have changed, but the arguments haven't. Yes, the church and state are at it again. Last Sunday, an estimated 1 million Catholics heeded the call of Archbishop Jaime Cardinal Sin to attend a prayer rally in Luneta. The crowd was composed of mainly religious organizations, Catholic school students, priests, and nuns. All masses in Metro Manila were canceled that afternoon, and attendance was a must for some students as well. The rally was meant to make the church's stand on population control more clearly and significantly heard.
We have come to combat insidious forces that invade our airwaves and pervade our daily life. Forces that pound into our consciousness and the consciousness of our children day in and day out, that it is now modern to enjoy sex outside of marriage, normal to be pregnant on the wedding day, that it is but provident and socially responsible to use contraceptives, that it is but a piece of insignificant tissue that is discarded when an unborn baby is aborted.
The church's stand on population control or family planning has always been anti-abortion and anti-contraception. But this time, the outrage is all about a draft that might just legitimize everything the church fundamentally abhors. In September of 1994, the Third International Conference on Population and Development, or ICPD, will be conducted in Cairo, Egypt. An 83-page draft document is up for discussion and approval. Included in the draft are resolutions concerning population management, the family, its roles, composition and structure, gender equality, reproductive rights, family planning, and migration.
Endangering not only her life, but...
Last April, Secretary Juan Flavier headed the Philippine delegation to the New York Preparatory Committee meeting. The committee was to finalize the draft that would give direction to the Cairo conference. In that meeting, Secretary Flavier issued a statement endorsing the draft.
The Philippine government gave a blanket endorsement of the first Cairo draft.
Sonny de los Reyes is the president of the Council of the Laity of the Philippines. He says Secretary Flavier's statement clearly showed the Philippine position on the Cairo document, which was, he quotes, to share the intents and purposes set forth in the draft program of action.
He says that the Philippine government embraces this whole first draft. Mind you, it's not these ones which were bracketed, which were where the interventions are put in. That means that without hearing the objections to it, the Philippine government embraced the entire first draft. That's what we're objecting to.
The church, he says, finds objectionable certain parts of the draft, specifically those sections considering abortion as a valid means of family planning. Chapter 8, paragraph 21 states that women should have access to safe abortion services and that women who wish to terminate their pregnancies should have ready access to reliable information, compassionate counseling, and services.
Contraception is evil. Condom is evil. Preventing life from coming into being is evil.
You know, we have to look at the draft program of action in its proper context.
Cecil Yasa is one of the country's delegates to the New York Preparatory Committee meeting. She's also the chairman of the Population Commission. She says the Cairo draft has tried to incorporate the interests of all the 184 member nations, but with one very important qualification.
Basic principle is the sovereignty of nations. So everywhere we are bound, you know, by our national laws, and we will have to be allowed to set up our own policies and programs accordingly. So even if, you know, in the document it says that reproductive health includes abortion, it can never be our definition in this country.
With a struggle for chastity, trusting in the Lord instead of a piece of thin rubber.
The church also questions the draft and its position about freedom of choice. Chapter 2, paragraph 29 and Chapter 7, paragraph 10 read, the aim of family planning programs must be to establish the widest possible freedom of choice in matters of procreation. Church officials believe this will encourage all forms of sexual activity.
Our children are being introduced to the world of pills and condoms and IUDs, which our government is now making accessible to them in local health centers upon a so-called choice.
We feel that family planning as a program of government should respond to all the needs and concerns of all the married couples of reproductive age. That is the focus of our family planning program. So we provide the widest range of medically safe and legally acceptable methods. That definition, again, excludes abortion.
Bukod sa napakadaling gamitin, ang condom ay safe. Para sa akin, ito ang pinakakombinyenteng family planning method.
At very effective pa.
Massive international funding has gotten the church even more alarmed. Chapter 13 of the Cairo document shows how much it would cost to finance these population programs. For the distribution of contraception and the promotion of abortion and sterilization worldwide, population-directed funds will amount to $13 billion by the year 2000 and up to $17 billion in 2015.
It used to be, yes, that most of the money went to family planning, but now I think they have a broadened view that there's also that recognition, obviously, of the STDs, the sexually transmitted diseases, AIDS in particular, etc. So there's going to be funding for that.
Mrs. Yasay explains how the thrust of population management programs has shifted. No longer is it focused only on population control, she says. Today, the trend is to look at population in relation to available resources and the protection of the environment.
This is what we call the paradigm shift. We cannot anymore think in a simplistic way of population growth. Population control will help our problems here. No, I refuse to accept that. But I also refuse to accept that development is, just focusing on development will help solve our problems. Again, that is too simplistic solution.
So it has to be a combination of both.
Combination, all working hand in hand, not separating one from the other.
But working hand in hand is not what the church and the state do best. Many feel last Sunday's rally only served to widen the rift between the two.
We found it very disappointing because the rally was basically a mass, no? It was supposed to be a mass, which would be in celebration of these things which we believed in. And when people started getting personal, we were saying that these aren't the things we wanted to say, these aren't the things we actually wanted to bring to the public. After all, it was a church thing. So we really felt very disappointed about that.
Many people felt that what was supposed to have been a prayer rally was marred by some who used the occasion for political grandstanding. And Cardinal Sin's personality attacks against Secretary Flavier heightened the political color.
Whoever should cause one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble and sin, it would be better for him to be thrown into the sea with a great millstone around his neck. This is addressed to Dr. Juan Flavier.
To tell you quite frankly, I was very pained. I was very hurt because, as you said personally, I'm a Catholic. I'm a parent. I have my own family, to think about. And for us to be accused of promoting sodomy, incest, etc., I felt was very painful because, this is my first job in government. And it is really commitment and service that is pushing me to work on this program.
We gather today impelled by the voice of conscience, trying to be heard in a world that increasingly scoffs at conscience.
Still, there are those who believe that the Cardinal is only being faithful to his commitments.
I guess it's part of being able to stand up, is to name names too. You cannot just make an accusation without naming names, diba?
We cannot say that what is bad is good. We cannot twist the truth. And if people can't accept the truth, then they probably need to seek it somewhere else.
Whether the rally led to it or not, the bickering did stop somehow. Earlier this week, the church and the state engaged in a long-awaited dialogue. It was there where much of the church's fears about the Cairo conference was allayed.
Okay, I think we have made ourselves very clear that obviously we are going to go there as the delegation from the Philippines. And we are bound by our constitution, our laws, our jurisprudence, and obviously our own moral, cultural realities in this country.
We would like to see our government agencies behave in a way that is faithful to the Constitution, which we believe is a very good Constitution. It is practically the only Constitution that has the word love in it, and God.
Church and state are finally clear on one thing, that the government will adhere to the constitutional provisions of protecting the rights of the unborn. But the most basic of issues remains unresolved. The church believes that population is not a problem of numbers, but of distribution, and it feels duty-bound to enjoin its flock to subscribe to this teaching.
The convictions that we as laity have must be turned into political action. Otherwise, it will fritter away as another one of those civic ideals that we always talk about but never do anything about. Definitely, we'll have to transform it into political action.
And as for contraception,
how do you now reconcile the position of the government with the position of the church?
I feel that this is where we will probably have to agree to disagree, because and it has been said many times that the government is there to serve a pluralistic society. Although we may be majority Catholics here, but not even all Catholics subscribe to only natural family planning as the method for family planning. So we have to serve the needs of all these people.